Banana.
Hello everybody, Kieran aka the Laird here, and I've got a nice video review for you today of something that's been out a little while, but they've just done a new version, and that finally persuaded me to pick one up on impulse when I was in Argos recently, and my wife is giggling in the background when I said that I bought it on impulse. Yeah, I couldn't resist it really. In all fairness, and it's actually pretty good price as well. I thought $59.99 Argos are doing it for. May vary in other retailers, if you're in America, of course. So as you can see, it's the Atari Flashback Portable. Now the Atari Flashback consoles have been going for years, as you probably know, in the plug and play form that you can connect onto your TV. But this is the first handheld version they've done. And first thing you'll notice about it is that the box proudly displays Pac-Man, and as you may or may not know, a lot of the early versions of the Flashback were criticised for not having games like Pac-Man and Space Invaders, etc., because they only had Atari made titles on them and none of the licensed stuff. And you'll also see down here that this one actually features Activision games as well, which is another one of the chief criticisms of the early Flashbacks. They had none of the Activision stuff, which of course are among some of the best games in the machine. It also boasts that it was launched for the 40th anniversary of Atari this year, as you can see, and that it has an SD card slot, which is another first for the Flashback consoles as well. So I just want to give you a little look at the box before I open it. I don't usually do unboxings because I'm not really a fan. But with this, I felt it was appropriate because the box is quite nice. So on the back, it shows you all the games that are on it, and a lot of stuff you'd expect to see. Yar's Revenge and Super Breakout, Asteroids, Crystal Castles, Missile Command, Haunted House and the like. Then you've got the Activision titles. There's also stuff like Pitfall, etc. There's also stuff by M Network, as you'll see, like Frogs and Flies, Astro Bar, Space Attack, which was cool to see. I didn't expect to see them on here at all. Some unreleased prototypes like Tempest, for example. There's a few more on there. Can't remember offhand what they are. So the Sears exclusives are Submarine Commander, and there's also some homebrew stuff that comes built into this as well, like Atari Climber. It shows some more on the bottom there actually. Yeah, so you go Pac-Man. But the eagle-eyed among you will have already noticed that the screenshot on the screen there for Pac-Man, which it shows in the front as well, is not the version shown here. It's not the original Atari 2600 version. The version they've actually put on here is the much more recent and far better homebrew version. So that was really, really good to see. So it's made by AtGames, as you might already know. They have quite a poor reputation for their stuff in general being quite crap, especially the Sega license stuff. But to be honest, the Flashback stuff they've done is pretty good. But then again, it was based on somebody else's existing design, so there wasn't a lot they could get wrong really. So inside the box, all you get is this little instruction manual, which doesn't really tell you a lot. It's got very, very brief descriptions of the games, as you can see. Not a lot else. You get a cable. Now this is just a USB cable, as you can see, for charging it. So you can either stick that into your phone charger or stick it into a computer to charge it, so easy enough. And of course the handheld itself. So the first thing you'll notice is, if you are familiar with AtGames products, is that it's almost identical in appearance to the Mega Drive handhelds. And a lot of people thought this is very lazy, that they didn't go for an Atari design. I do agree with that in some respects. I do think it would have been nicer if they'd made something that looked a bit more like it was made by Atari. One of the only real differences is obviously the Atari logo on the back here. It is a slightly different shape when you put them side by side, but not a lot. One thing that a lot of people have said is, with this design, is why on earth do you need 6 buttons? And I have to confess that was one of the things I thought as well, because you only think, well, you've got the red button, that's fire. So what the other button is for And it wasn't until I picked it up that I realised. So up here, this one acts as your reset button. This one acts as a start button. Now the crucial difference here is obviously on the original Atari 2600 consoles, reset button was the start button. So what this actually does is reset takes you back to the menus, the main menus, and start actually acts as the reset button within the games to start the games. Now the other 6 buttons, once I explain this, it makes perfect sense. You've got your left and right difficulty switches are there and there. So you've got your fire button, you've got your TV switch as well, because on some games that was used for different features on some of the more advanced games. And you've also got your you've got a pause button, which obviously is a new thing, so you can pause all the games as well. So actually all the buttons are used for various different things which are needed. So yeah, so T is your TV, there, fire button, A, left and right difficulty switches, pause, and select. Obviously select button is needed on pretty much every game, really. Your on-off switch on the bottom, plus headphone jack. On the top, you've got your power, your USB, an AV out. That doesn't come in the box, unfortunately, that lead. So, but you can buy, they're pretty easy to pick up on eBay, an AV out lead, and then you can use this on your TV as well and play it that way. And then you've got your volume control and the SD card slot, which is your usual spring-loaded affair. Takes the big old style SD cards, which are actually quite hard to find now. I noticed when I was looking for one for it. But you can find them on eBay. I ended up buying a second-hand one actually. But I was surprised it was actually quite expensive, and I'm guessing it's because they are getting quite hard to find. But anyway, so let's have a look when you turn it on, what you got. Oops. So there we go, it boots into an Atari logo. Trying to make sure you'll see it and there's not too much reflection. I might have to move it a bit closer to the camera. There we go. So you'll see the menu system is quite nice because it shows the box art for each game, and obviously all the names look like the end labels for cards. But the weird thing here is to actually go on to the next row there, you have to keep pressing down. So there's one of the homebrews, for example, Atari Climber. And then by pressing left and right, it actually scrolls through the menu. Another thing you'll notice going through these is you've also got games that actually use the paddles, like Demons to Diamonds there, Circus Atari, Breakout, for example. There's others, and to be honest, although this joypad is pretty good, I have to say I do quite like this joypad. It looks a bit weird and it looks a bit cheap, but it actually does work pretty well. But it doesn't work very well as a paddle, and the paddle games are actually really hard to control. It's a shame they didn't put a little paddle on it somewhere that you could use, but I guess it would have pushed the price up and they wouldn't have been able to use the same lazy Mega Drive case. There's the most pointless entry on there, Fun with Numbers. I'm not even sure why they bothered including that one, to be honest. Frogger is on there, but although it shows the box art there for the Parker Brothers Frogger, the Frogger that's on here is actually not the 2600 version. I'll just show you quickly, because it was made especially for this, and it is very, very authentic to the arcade games. You can probably see there. So it's not really an Atari 2600 game at all. And to be honest, I think I would have rather have seen the 2600 version on here. This is like with the Flashback consoles where they put Space Invaders on, and it wasn't the 2600 Space Invaders. It was a new version that was much more like the arcade game. So then you see, press reset, take me back to the menu. Unreleased stuff like Saboteur, Save Mary, another one that's a prototype. Homebrew there, like strip off. And what you can do is, I'll show you this as well, is when you go all the way through there, you get SD card browser and about. About obviously just tells you about the handheld and where you can find stuff out. But SD card, obviously you go to SD card browser, Takes a little while, but then you've got everything. You can obviously, I've got loads of homebrew stuff on here, for example, which is brilliant because I hadn't played a lot of these games before. So it was really cool to discover more of the homebrew stuff that's out there. There's hacks on here. And I should mention actually where I got this. If you go to Atari Age, there's actually a page dedicated to the Flashback console, and you can just download the latest version of the ROM set for putting on this, because one of the things is that they did find that there was a lot of compatibility problems with games for this. So a few clever bods out there have actually fixed lots of the games so they work on this properly, and work very well. They do actually. So I'll just show you, this is another homebrew one. This has to be one of my favourite ones that I've discovered. There's a couple like this. This isn't the one I was thinking of actually. Fail. Get back to that menu. Maybe it was the other one. I could have sworn it was brick, but maybe I'm wrong. There's another homebrew one. Let's put that one on. This is very good. So there we go. Bomb on Pixel City. Variation on the Blitz theme. I just want to show you sort of how a few of the different games work on this. So there's hacks like that one. There's X on hack there, and obviously this is Zippy the Porcupine, which is the Sonic game. But sadly this isn't the finished version of it, because there's no music and stuff and no intro. I'm guessing that's because that was sold by Atari Age and they didn't want to annoy them, kind of thing. But still, it's still a very impressive little homebrew game, that basically Sonic. So yeah, you can put whatever you want on the SD card. I've used a 512 one and I got everything on it fine. I'm not actually sure how much it used up. Actually, that reminded me as well, seeing the Yard's Revenge there. There's actually an exclusive game on here, which is, there's a it doesn't seem to work. There are odd ones that don't work. I just want to show you this. There's actually a game called Yard's Return, which is exclusively made for this as a sequel to Yard's Revenge. And I have to. It's just a little. It plays pretty similar, but as you'll see, you move around the whole screen rather than everything being on one side. I believe the ROM of this has actually been dumped now, though, so you can actually play it on a real console as well. But it's still very cool to see they've put an exclusive game on here. So that's pretty much it, really. There's not really anything else to show you. It's quite small, as you can probably see as well by the size of my hands compared to the unit, but it feels very comfortable to hold. And although it initially looks quite cheap, all the buttons respond well, and I haven't really found any issues with it to put me off. The battery life seems to be extremely good, lasts for ages. There's no problems there, and yeah, it's hard really to find any faults with it apart from the laziness of the design. Everything's implemented quite well. Though the menu, I still don't like the fact you have to keep pressing down to go into the next row. It's a minor complaint, all in all, I think. So yeah, I can't really fault it at all. I mean, I have to say this is the ideal Christmas present for somebody. If they're into their Atari, I would have been very happy to have received this as a present, so I kind of bought it for myself. But yeah, I think this is a great piece of kit. It's highly recommended, especially for the fact it has the SD card slot as well, which I think kind of seals the deal, because there is another one coming out that they've given a wood grain finish to. I believe it's actually being launched first here in the UK by the AtGames partner here in the UK, Blaze, aka Funstock, and they're doing their own one, which is a wood grain, and it looks the part. It looks absolutely fantastic. It looks like a 2600, but from what I understand, there's only 30 games on it, and there's no SD card slot. Whereas this comes with something like 80, and then that's a moot point anyway. I mean, you can add the SD card slot and put whatever you like on it. So yeah, if you love the 2600 and all the classic games, and or even if you just wanted to discover some new games for it via the homebrew scene and stuff, then I can't really recommend this highly enough. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please give us a like if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel if you don't already do so. And I'll see you all again for another video very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.